The most valuable business move isn't perfecting what you're doing. It's recognizing when it's time to pivot into something completely different. Swiss farmers in the Vallée du Joux faced brutal winters when farming was impossible. So they started making watches in their barn. That pivot just didn't save their livelihoods. It created an entire industry and made Switzerland synonymous with precision and luxury. What if your constraints aren't limitations, but invitations to build something revolutionary? Right now, you're probably grinding away at your current business model, even though the market is shifting, margins are shrinking, or the opportunity is dying. Just like those farmers who couldn't grow crops in frozen ground, you can't force a model that no longer works. Research shows that 87% of companies that survived major market shifts did so by pivoting their core business, not optimizing it. Your business right now may not need refinement. It may need a complete revision. Stay locked into your current position while your market evolves around you, and 5 years from now, you'll be the farmer trying to still plant seeds in frozen soil, working harder than ever with nothing really to harvest. You'll watch competitors pivot into thriving markets while you define a dying position. But recognize when your winter has arrived, embrace the pivot, explore what else your skills can build, and you might create something that defines an entirely new industry. Key words in our business is pivot and fire drill. Pivot means that in the middle of something has changed. And I've talked to you about this on many different occasions, whereby you have to be able to have some sort of ability to back up. In other words, start learning different things. Because invariably, whatever you've planned out over a period of time is going to change. And especially in the online market, things change on a regular basis. When YouTube decided to start in shorts, the people who already had a process could create shorts quickly. The people who didn't have a process had to build that process before they even got to the point of actually being able to deliver shorts, and therefore missed out on that opportunity. During a short period of time, shorts became the thing that YouTube was pushing the most and saw the greatest growth in. So pivots become that important, but also having the core fundamental understanding of each one of your techniques and processes to know where you can add it in. One of the great things that we've seen is when a core process is understood, you can see how it can be added to other industries or other organizations. So for example, I was in the publishing industry and we were distributing hard copy books. And I realized that the same distribution model would work in digital. And therefore we started building digital books, and then we had digital courses. And now we have a digital marketing system. In the same way that you look at how you capture information, how do you capture information? We're capturing it via video right now with the understanding that VSS then can deliver into audio, visual, and written means all much more efficiently than it used to be. Understanding those core ideas. And when you start to see an industry that starts to move away, starts to slow up, start to have too many competitors, start looking for your next blue ocean. I did this when I was running a company that was teaching project management. And I came out of the project management field. I was a content contributor for something called the PMBOK, the Project Management Body of Knowledge, which is the document that everyone trains on to actually get a project management certification, at least in the Project Management Institute side of things. But I recognized that industry was becoming more and more saturated, and therefore more and more people were competing, and it was very low barrier to entry. Anyone could get into it. For about $250, you could get a certification as long as you met certain criteria and become a professional project manager, a PMP. I recognized that I had a number of skills. I was teaching, building courses, built online courses. I knew how to write books. I knew publishing. So the strategic move for me was to pivot all of that information and my company onto an online company and start managing other companies. And that has done me very well. I've used my project management skills and my training skills and all of the material that I've used when I was training in project management and shifted into running companies that do training and teaching and then online. And I started to improve my skills again in video, in management, in interaction, in risk management. And therefore, right now, we're running multiple companies in a project management format, delivering content over a number of different channels. And I couldn't have done any of that without pivoting, without understanding exactly what I knew and how I could apply it to some other organization. And that's a classic pivot. Just like the watch manufacturers, the farmers who learned how to make clocks in the winter because they had so much downtime. In fact, many of the ancient barns are where the great houses of watchmaking in Switzerland are, is where those barns and those fields. What we have to do is we have to look at what we have. They had time, they had the technology, they had the ability to access, and they had the artistic ability to actually create timepieces, and that created an entire industry. So understanding what you need, recognizing that your industry is getting saturated and starting to look for that new blue ocean, not having to fight for the same areas, but taking that information and stepping out. Now, everyone's going to argue that AI may be the next great ocean. In fact, I was talking to a thought leader yesterday, and he said, if you're not thinking about how AI is implemented in your business, you're going to be obsolete. I think he's probably right to some degree. I think AI may be a little overhyped, and it may be becoming more obvious. But still, think about it this way. One of the reasons I'm doing these videos is to prove that I'm real, even though some people don't think that. I get comments like, oh, this is just AI. I'll prove that I'm real because at some point in the very near future, you're going to have computers looking at each one of these things and verifying whether that's real or not. And that comes out of a number of science fiction books in the 1960s, is when I first learned about this idea of the web of lies. And instead of assuming that everything is truthful on the internet, which I don't think we do now, but at one point we did, everything is untruthful, and then there's a degree of truth to it. Imagine, if you will now, having hundreds of videos of me talking that is not AI generated, and all of the little fumbles and issues and mistakes that I make, including not pronouncing words right. It's a treasure trove of information for people who are interested in seeing the difference between AI and not AI, as well as having AI go back and look at everything that's going on. Is that going to happen? Maybe. Maybe it's not. And AI is going to be certainly part of our world, maybe not quite what we're expecting yet, but pivots are going to happen all the time. And if you're stuck into one model and don't think that you can change, you then are going to get into a problem where you're going to be farming in the winter. Instead, what I'd encourage you to do is start looking and start building those core essential assets. What are they? What are those core essential assets that you have? I'd love you to put a list together of the things that can't be done by AI. And some people say, shooting video can't be done by AI. Yes and no. But speaking to a camera, what I'm doing now is something that most AIs can't do. They can't use the creative thought. They can't see the new way of doing it, the new place of doing it, the new way of interacting. And fundamentally understanding how all this works will create good, solid ability for you to get things done, as well as a good, solid idea for when you can pivot. And when you need to pivot, don't look within your industry. What ideas, tools, and accessories does your company have, as well as talent that could be used somewhere else? There's another couple of great examples, which I'm going to do a couple of videos on, and one of which is how two major film companies worked completely differently to do the same thing. The fascinating story about a David and Goliath moment, where David actually made it out and Goliath never did. So look at those pivot points. And if you know of any good examples of that pivot point, put it in the comments below. I'd love to continue this conversation. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode on the Strategy Session, where we take your business from stuck to unstoppable. Here's another video I think you'd enjoy. If you found these insights valuable, remember to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell for notifications on our latest videos. Remember, you're not just marketing, you're making history with Venture Gained.